Welcome to Spirit of an Athlete. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Show us that you like what we're doing by liking, subscribing, sharing with other people that are like you. That's how we know we're doing the right thing. In this episode, I interview Christina Specos, who I've known for a couple of years, and I was so thrilled to cross her path. She's been in the fitness industry for 24 years. She coaches fitness professionals on a holistic level, which I love, to help them meet peak performance. She's also a licensed athletic trainer, a massage therapist, a Pilates instructor, and she was an associate director of sports performance at Purdue University. I brought her on because we're tackling a very tough topic, something both of us have been challenged with in our lives. Her, more recently, because she is an IFBB pro in women's physique. Me, my entire career of being an athlete from 8 years old till now, around the question, are you a dude? Yeah, both of us have been confronted with this really tough topic. And we wonder why. And we've done the work for ourselves so that we can share with you what our experience was and how we overcame it. There might be some triggering topics for you because this is a topic that female athletes have to confront from time to time. Whether you're in the LGBTQ community or not, this is something that you might experience. And if you're straight, like Christina and I, then experiencing this is a whole nother level of challenges. I hope you enjoy this. Please leave us a comment and let us know how you felt this particular episode went. I'm really interested to see. Oh, this conversation is going to be a doozy. It is going to potentially trigger people. It's going to definitely be in the controversial arena. So buckle in. Here we go. Christina, thank you so much for being on Spirit of an Athlete with me.
I love the concept. I love you and your sense of humor and your mission to help educate. So I'm honored to be here.
Well, okay. So mine.
I had to bring the seagulls along because if you get triggered, at least there's an air of somewhat humor in the air. And so this guy on my shoulder, he's just watching you. Any trolls want to attack, he's got a beak and he will peck.
Those of you who are listening to this podcast, she has on her background the seagulls from Finding Nemo, where they go, mine, and there's one like right in her face at the same level as her. It's friggin' awesome.
You can't just like when you with me, you can't just listen on the radio. I'll try to be as like dynamic as possible, but you need to see my seagulls.
Exactly. So go check us out on YouTube. Spirit of an Athlete on YouTube. Okay, so we're both female. We both go by she, her, all of those pronouns. We are both in our 40s, went to high school in the 90s, went to college after that. You were an athlete, tennis player in high school. I was volleyball, basketball, softball in high school. We've both gone on to become weightlifting athletes. You're a bodybuilder, IFBB pro bodybuilder. I'm a power lifter. And we both grew up in the blue collar world when we were kids. And so what we're sharing today, our opinions have been formed around those things when we were kids, as well as the experiences, the traumas, everything that we have gone through in our lives. And so what we're talking about is being a female athlete and being asked about our gender and our sexuality. So, Christina, Give me an example. We're going right there. Give me an example of when somebody judged you and approached you about who you are, what your sexuality is, and potentially what your gender is.
I have a few, so I'm going to keep them all really brief and one-liners. And then if you want to dive into anyone in particular, um, when I first got into bodybuilding, it was 2016, and I did that as essentially for myself, a cry for help because I had dove everything into college athletics. I was a strength coach at a Division I university. So,
Purdue,
you know,
no
yeah,
less.
yeah, exactly. And basketball, volleyball, very demanding and fast-paced women's revenue sports because, we sold tickets and did well and we sold out. So there's a responsibility with that. And I got into bodybuilding because I owed it to myself to not be a chunky fat strength coach. I call it fat strength coach syndrome. We give so much and then we just eat everything on the buffet, this, that, and the third. So catalyst was someone walked into my office. She was going to compete, and I was like, I've wanted to do this. So since my teenage and early 20s, I look at people on covers of magazines, and I want to do that. I've been in fitness forever. What's the problem? The problem, spoiler alert, folks, it's always nutrition, but we can talk about that later. I can't outsmart a poor diet. I can't outtrain it. So that was my problem, as much as I knew as many certifications I had. So I go and become a competitor. I compete in 2016 and 17. 17 was a pretty rough year in the sense of like over dieted, lack of attention, and really looked ugly. It was horrible. 2018 rolls around. That's when I left Purdue. But in that year between 17 and 18, I had a boss change at work. My old boss like knew of it and was inspired at first. And then, you get to the danger zone of that 2017 year where I looked horrible. And then you kind of come out of that. And I was always very lean after that because I never really came off diet. And my new boss said to me, are you a strength coach or a model? Because I would, when you compete, you are proud of what you worked hard for. So you do photo shoots and this and that. I tried to be as respectful as I could on Instagram, and I put everything was centered around my job and nothing personal. Um, but it was no mistake that I was doing photo shoots and I did like what I had achieved. So that was like woman on woman hate because everybody else around me was like, why she's doing this to you, right? Like there's always as we discussed earlier, when someone's triggered by something, there's always something wrong in them that they're trying to reflect onto you that they're really unhappy within themselves. So I move on
Mhm.
from there. I get my pro card. And at some point after 2018, but before 20, I was told by someone really close to me, bodybuilding is going to ruin your career. So it got in my head and actually stayed in my head the last 3 to 4 years, I'll tell you, as it affected some things that came down the pike. So whatever, get my pro card in 2019 and 2020 COVID hit. And then 21 competed in my first pro show. Everything was fine. 22, I made a huge social media push to educate and do training clips. And I hired my friend's agency. Everything was professional. It was getting a lot of views. Then I started getting the internet hate. Everything from, oh, bro has a dick over there, or that's a man, or lay off the roids, or whatever. Like everything you can imagine. Um, that kind of took me down a spiral, and then I filmed a reality show. In the reality show, I experienced that the date that I had was not physical attraction wasn't there for him, which was fine because I mean I was playing nice on the show if I'm being honest, because I was just excited to be there. But in real life, I wouldn't have liked him either. So I was like, okay, what came out later was, oh, what do you want her to do? She colored her hair, she's changed her wardrobe, she's covering up her muscles. You want her to lose the muscle? And the quote that I saw after I actually saw the show come out was, that's exactly what she could do. So there's this underlying hatred of women with muscle, and that I wasn't good enough to be a woman with Miami beauty standards because, as she said, beauty is currency. Fast forward, there's more internet hate from content I'm putting out. And then lastly, most recently, was asked to be on a podcast. Was recruited from Instagram. Like their company had a girl that was recruiting people. So I book it like for a couple weeks out from when I was asked, and I show up. I'm on time. I'm very respectful, the whole deal. And then, we're there an hour and a half before the podcast filming, and the guy pulls me aside and says, "Are you a man?" I said, "Pardon me? Are you kidding me?" He goes, well, it would look bad for the podcast. We can't have you here. It's a podcast for women. I'm like, I'm not a man. And he says, well, weren't you on, the Fresh and Fit podcast? I was like, yeah, what's the problem? Well, they don't tolerate that there either. I'm like, well, I'm not a man. So that's what I'm like,
That's
you
why
want
I
to
was
love?
there.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I break, and even on the Fresh and Fit podcast, I broke the stereotypical norm because I have a presence of confidence, and I pretty much took the stand that this is me. I'm going to take care of myself until somebody I'm going to put my air quotes up for people listening, more masculine than me is going to show up for me. And he says, well, that's like if I want to wear a dress and heels, you're not going to believe that I'm a man. I'm like, that's not the same. I'm working for myself. I'm making my own money. I don't look for handouts. I'm not the girly girl that's going to date a guy, part of my language, fuck him once and expect a Louis Vuitton bag. Like that's not me. I'm very, very self-sufficient and I'm a team member. I'm not the person that you spoil for no reason. So if that's masculine, because I want to be a teammate with a mate of mine or present myself as confident, maybe I could like tone it down, but dude, you've never been where I've been. I worked in college sports. I was around men all the time. I figured out a way to gain respect with my intelligence and my authority rather than being questioned the way, for example, another coach I knew that was never a friend of mine, but just in passing, he says, I will never hire a woman to work with my football team because she's going to want to F all the players. And I was like, I'm 31. These boys are 18 to 22. That's sickening. It's disgusting. So the fact that you have to generalize all women when I'm a pedigreed professional with a master's degree in a track history of success, that's insulting. If you make a mistake and you hire the wrong person, that's fine, but don't generalize with everyone. So in a lot of different areas, personally and professionally, I've been hit with it.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, because of the cultural landscape, people have been asking me if I'm transgender because either on dating apps, they're meeting women that are transgender and they're getting a surprise because they're not being forthcoming because the transgender women truly believe that they are really biological women because that's what they're telling themselves. And they're not being honest with their surgery or whatever their situation is with the guy they're trying to date. And so I got questioned on dating apps, on FaceTime calls. Oh, there's no easy way to ask this, so I just have to ask this. And I'm like, okay, I understand. Again, this guy's triggered.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is what I sound like, what I look like. I have traps, he said. I'm like, okay, sorry, I played tennis and lifted weights. It kind of comes when you're deadlifting, right?
Right.
So
Have you looked at swimmers before? Uh,
yeah, it's I feel like I have an array of a bunch of different examples that it
mhm.
just all led into one bucket, and the bucket only had one little hole at the bottom draining, and then eventually last year it overflowed. I saw therapists. I'm in an emotional intelligence leadership program now, which is helping a lot to just let me extract all that so I could be a better leader. And essentially, when you and I talked off air, you have a really good high EQ about how you can perceive the way someone's saying something and understand where they're coming from to have more empathy and compassion. So I'm working on
Yeah.
that now rather than wanting to jump off a bridge or kill anybody. I feel like, the problem is really with them, but the buck stops with me by truly
Yeah.
being who I am. And I wasn't really doing that. So at the end of the day, I guess this whole thing came full circle, and I realized I'm not really loving myself if I'm letting them infiltrate with their opinions.
Yes, sister. Okay. Oh, so much to unpack. Okay. When you were in high school playing tennis and being a student athletic trainer, which I was also a student athletic trainer, thank you. Um,
We twins.
did you confront any of these issues then when you weren't an IFBB pro?
I don't recall ever having those encounters.
Okay. See, that's where it
Where
started for
people
me.
questioning who I was. Well, first of all, tennis wears skirt. I played field hockey for 1 year too in seventh grade. So we all wore skirts. So I think there's
Mhm.
this girly connotation. And I'm sorry if this offends anybody, but it's just my experience. I worked with volleyball, basketball, I've been around swimming and softball. I know the sports that have this connotation of questioning someone's sexuality because
Mhm.
perhaps the percentage of women that play that sport are gay.
Mhm.
And it gets generalized. My best friend played college softball. She's not gay, but she's had that experience as well being on a team. Tennis, I didn't experience that. So maybe because tennis is almost seen, it's an aggressive sport, but the skirt probably numbs or dumbs down the intensity factor of it a little bit. But when you're literally going body to body in basketball,
Yeah.
it's a different kind of aggression. In tennis, you have to have real strong individual mental strength because it's only you against that other person. Whereas you have a team and body to body against someone and being super aggressive, it's a different kind of tough.
Hmm.
But
So
the
what I
skirt,
experienced, the skirt, I'm sure helped. None of the sports I played in had skirts. I wish. I mean, pro baseball for women back when the Rockford Peaches, for instance, were a team, which is my hometown. Uh, they wore skirts, but I couldn't freaking imagine playing softball in a skirt. Uh, the gender thing came up for me in high school. And that's why I ask, because they called me the jock chick, right? And those of us who played three sports or more, we were hardcore athletes. We were very competitive. We came across as more masculine than, say, the cheerleaders who were in skirts and doing a very athletic thing. But obviously, that wasn't what I was doing. So, meh. Okay. You went on and you went to Purdue and you became a strength and conditioning coach for a bunch of women's sports, which I'm sure that's where you learned more about, like, oh, softball players tend to have more lesbians on their team. Basketball players, they tend to be more lesbians on that team. That was also what I experienced as a D1 athlete. Did you ever get questioned by those athletes if you would date them?
no, no.
Okay.
Interesting because I was probably the only straight one on the coaching staff as well. Because, I think that was a really interesting dichotomy to have because I had, for lack of a better word, I think I had lost that sensitivity factor. I would say the famous line from, Jerry Maguire, I don't gush over babies, when the one lady is like really getting angry that he just lost the big contract. Like I tend to focus on the task at hand, which is why I was successful with bodybuilding. I was able to block everything out and be like, this is my body, this is my life. So I noticed that I was in some ways more headstrong, more bossy,
Mm-hmm.
and I displayed those characteristics, even though I didn't go along with the so-called sexual orientation that it's supposed to be commonly associated with. So I thought that was a really interesting dichotomy, because I had lost some sensitivity. And I think that was an overcompensation for the fact that I had to be tougher around the people that I perceived were tough.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up almost out toughing it. And it actually got me through. It spared my emotions because I was able to push my emotions down. Um, so when people are all pissed off at losses and they're worried about they're going to lose their house or their mortgage because they're going to get fired because we lost a game, like I was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, suck it up, coach better next time. I kind of I didn't get emotional the way people would because at the end
Hone
of the
your
day,
skill. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I know what contribution I have and I know the relationship I have with the kids. So thankfully, no one ever crossed the line. Um, but interestingly enough, when I was a high school strength coach, one young gay boy asked me because I cut my hair short, like
Mm.
punky. And he goes, Specos, I
Well,
always thought you were gay because, you lift weights and you have short hair. I'm like, okay, so that's what it takes to be a lesbian. Got it. Meanwhile, on the
yes.
flip side, here was the interesting thing. One of my friends came to live with me for 9 months because we worked on her PhD project together with research on my teams. And she would experience the opposite. She was a lesbian and she had people say, you're too pretty to be gay.
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
gosh, nobody can win here.
right. That and I mean, when did it become okay to ask people what their sexual orientation is unless you're trying to date them?
Did I tell you that
And
did to me last month or earlier this month? Point
oh,
blank.
yeah.
I don't think I told you that. I was at a content creation summit and the after party after the last day, we're all just kind of like going to eat upstairs at the restaurant. And I just was kind of standing around different people that had decided to meander up from the conference. And two guys were standing there, we started talking, and the one guy had said a peep to me. And he just looks at me and he goes, "Are you transgender?" I'm like, "You didn't even say hi." Like, is this the new greeting? So the other guy next to him was like, "You have to pardon him. He's never seen a woman with muscles." And I'm like, "You have to understand that I'm not even fit right now. Like, I'm soft. I'm not even exposing muscles. I'm not lean." So I used it as an opportunity to say, I know male characteristics. Like if you just start scratching your balls and sitting down, leaning back like Al Bundy with your hands in your pants, I'm going to assume you're a man because of the way you're behaving. Is there a way that I'm standing here and behaving that's making you think I'm a transgender? Oh, your traps are bigger. What is it about the traps, people? What if I'm a really stressed out person and I can't get my shoulders out
Just
of
hold
my
it there.
Lord.
Oh, yeah. You shared that with me off air. But I love that you brought that in because it goes into now you're an IFBB pro. You own a pro card. You're doing shows. You're constantly going through gains and leaning out, and your perception of being leaned out and really having your muscles pop is completely different than someone who just sees you are a very well built woman,
I have good
right?
structure, shape, genetics, and proportions for the most part. So if I'm
Well,
big,
you
I'm
have
big.
to.
I'm big everywhere. Like I'm not that girl that has trouble building her legs and has massive shoulders or vice versa. I'm pretty much pretty even. And when we say we want to bring up lagging body parts, it's just like splitting hairs over being in the top elite levels because I don't have that proportion that's off drastically like some people do when they struggle to build up a part of their body. So overall, if I gain weight, like now I'm heavier than I'd like to be, I just look like massive, in my opinion. And when people see fat on top of muscle, they just see mass. They don't
Yes.
understand the way fitness people understand, the dynamic of changing your body composition. So I just look huge.
That's, yeah. I, I'm right there with you, sister. And this is where, like, for my entire life, I've experienced those questions around do you want to be a girl? Like I got those questions. Do you want to be a girl? Because you really look like a boy. Or
Art, like what supposedly looked like a boy about you.
my muscles,
That's
the
it.
amount of mass that I carry on my body that is muscle. That's it. That's what it is. And I've had other people who come up to me and say, I've never seen a woman move so much weight before. And I'm like, thank you. Are you intimidated? Like, and there is that intimidation factor. I do pop out with that question. Like, does that intimidate you? But I only ask those questions to people that I'm a little more familiar with. But there's definitely this stigma around women who carry a lot of muscle, who look strong, who have traps, lats, biceps that are defined not like Michelle Obama arms, but like a, a lot more pop. You know what I mean? And
I just
and
say that.
there's this questioning of are you are you wanting to be a man? That's the question that pops up for me. And I'm just like, no, I just want to look and feel really good. And for me, what that takes is heavy load. I love powerlifting because my nervous system responds really well to high loads. And that's what feeds me and makes me happy. Have you gone down that path of understanding why you wanted to be an IFBB pro from a physiological perspective?
Let me say this. I never started the journey wanting to turn pro in bodybuilding. It evolved. I wanted to finally break this cycle of putting everybody and everything else first, doing the fast, easy, cheap food thing, and push one workout off to the next day, which became months and months later and 30 more pounds. I wanted to break that cycle and finally have a little bit of self-respect. I realized I loved who I had become mentally after accomplishing something, because there's nothing better than staying consistent and reaping the benefits. And then people and yourself, you finally see the physical manifestation of it. I never set out to say, oh my God, I want to be an influencer and have abs and a big booty and do all these things and post it on socials. I was saving my soul by having
Mhm.
discipline. So when I then got deeper into it and I got really competitive with myself, it flipped, turned upside down to be, this is detrimental for my mindset. This is detrimental for my health. I'm going off the deep end with details and measuring things and worrying about, competition and comparing to all these little details and worrying about being perfect for my coach and all these things that took the fun out of why I did it in the first place. And then it came full circle again. Now I'm learning more. Like, so this is why when people want to go on a fitness journey and they think it's a 12-week transformation, I'm like, no, 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 sweetheart, listen,
That's a cycle.
8 years and I'm developing different pieces of the journey every year, because you're not going to attack it all at once. You're not going to attack it all in 12 weeks.
Hmm.
You're highly disillusioned to think that you're going to just buy a program and be transformed, because that's great marketing. That's not reality. So I morphed into an IFBB pro. And then when I got there, I said, you know what? Now that you're a pro, it's a new level. You have to level up in these areas now, because I have pride, right? And in the years that I didn't show up looking like a professional athlete or behaving like a professional athlete, I would give myself the third degree. And I still have guilt over that, because if people are going to see one thing and see a label, I need to be able to back it up. So if Kobe or Michael Jordan or any of those guys decided, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and drink it and drug it, and I'm not going to go and shoot my free throws, it's out of alignment for what people see and for what they started out with in the first place. So for me, that's diet. For me, that's mindset. For me, that's slacking on workouts. Like I give myself the third degree when I don't. So from that perspective, what it's done for me mentally is to continue to reinvent the goal, because after 24 years, I've done everything for the most part. I've lifted every single lift. I've eaten every single food. I've been to every single percent body fat. You have to continually reinvent. So I'm in the phase of mentally having it be a part of me, but not owning me,
Nice.
because there's not really that much that surprises me anymore. Whereas someone new on their fitness journey, they may be surprised at a runner's high that they get for the first time, or that they could actually squat a certain thing and not fall over. Those things don't really happen for me anymore. I have to create opportunities to overcome even more difficult stuff. So I'm deeper connected to it. And at this phase in my emotional intelligence journey, I'm trying to really connect to the things that I maybe moved too fast before and neglected just by being a robot. I want to be humanized and love it rather than going to a means to an end. So it means so much to me now, because it is infiltrated into who I am and how I see myself, from a
Nice.
self-worth and maybe not so good being self-worth, but accomplishment.
Yeah.
No one
I mean,
wants to go back.
that's that athletic mindset, right? We're competitors. Deep
Mhm.
down, we're here to compete. If that's with ourselves or if it's with another team or if it's with another individual, we're competitors at the heart of it. When you were a strength and conditioning coach for college athletes, did you notice that same mindset for them? Not the competitor's mindset, but they were doing it for themselves. They were doing it to level up who they were, or were they doing it because that was the thing that got them the scholarship, that kept them at the school? And well, mom and dad really pushed for it. And now you've got to, you're supporting your team and you're supporting your coaches.
Respectfully to all those whom I've left behind in that world that I still love, even though they probably hated me for what I asked them to do to be great. I believe it's the latter, because when it becomes a job, it's not fun. The kid that goes to play pickup on the weekends with their friends, it's fun. You have thousands of dollars of scholarship riding on you. You have study hours, you have community service, you have this event, that event. Your life in college sports is not your own. And I saw the kids go through this, and I would sit there and think, oh my gosh, if I'm exhausted at the end of the day, these kids are not getting sleep. These kids are expected to show up at 5:45 for a 6 a.m. workout, and if their toe is 1 inch over the line, I'm expected to hold the line of discipline and chew their ass out on details. The stakes are so high that I can completely believe that it's really not for the love of the game anymore, except in a small percentage of people. And I have an athlete still to this day who's a professional volleyball player who everything is about excellence. It's about doing the extra. It's about helping more. It's about more film, more practice, just showing up. Whereas everybody else, they're just punching the clock because
Mm,
the love somewhere got messed up by the fact that it came with all of this other stuff. And I left shortly before the whole NIL thing, so I can't even comment on that, but I can
mm,
only imagine now it's probably even worse when now it's transactional. Gino Oriema said it best on Instagram video I saw, like, how do you make connection with people who are just basically like punching a clock and making it transactional? You can't connect when it's transactional. It's true in life, it's true in dating, and it's true in college sports. So I'd like to say, generally speaking, and quick example, it is the latter, and worked with soccer. The conditioning tests in soccer were very brutal. And I had this one girl, I can still remember it to this day, couldn't pass it to save her life. Didn't want to make the effort to pass it, so she quit the team. She always struggled with her weight, which is why she couldn't pass the test. The second she quits the team, now she's running way more than what I would have her run because she chose to do it and she dropped all the weight.
hmm
So I think it's a matter of personal choice. And if you're doing it because you have to or you want to,
When it
when the
comes to
scholarship's hanging
playing,
over your head, it's probably because you have to.
yes, ish, you loved the game for sure. I lived this. You loved the game at one point. And if you walked into a college, especially at the Division 1 level, which is the highest level you can play at in college sports, it's basically semi-pro. We might as well just start calling it that, especially with NIL. And I have to, for those of you who don't know what NIL is, it's name, image, likeness, and high school kids are now allowed to do NIL. So now we've gone from just college to high school and college. And I'll have somebody on the podcast that will explain NIL in great detail. Dr. Jamira, Dr. Jam, I can't wait to have her on and help everyone understand NIL from that perspective. But now that we've gone to that degree of we're punching a clock, if you walk into a college athletic program at the Division 1 level and you don't love it, you are in the wrong place because your love is going to be tested over and over and over again. As a softball player in Division 1, I was doing 52 hours a week on average of softball, especially in season. But season was fall and spring. So winter was my off time, but no, that's when we worked out really hard. That was when you made the most gains. Off season is where champions are made. The love does get lost though. And that was for me one of the many reasons why I left Division 1 and went to Division 2. And now all of a sudden, 35 hours a week of softball, I can actually enjoy life. And like you mentioned, get some damn sleep. Trying to pull off a mechanical and aerospace engineering degree and be a softball player at 52 hours a week? Hell no. That's two full-time jobs on top of themselves, which translated to what looked like what I was doing in the aerospace industry after I left. So I guess I was preparing myself. But then I also exited aerospace because of that reason, because I wasn't getting good sleep. I was working 60 to 80 hours a week, which is exactly what I was doing in college playing Division 1. And my body took the hit. My brain took the hit. And my doctor kept saying, "You're going to kill yourself if you keep going down this path." So I was like, okay, I've got to do better for me. And at that time, I dove down the rabbit hole of being a yoga instructor. And man, I finally found the love again, the love for myself, the love for my body. And I feel like a lot of athletes experience that. Have you ever experienced burnout as an IFBB pro?
Yeah, I think so. However, I somehow brainwashed myself to block it out.
Mm,
There was a phase in 2017 where I was like, still had 8 weeks to go to a show, and I was so exhausted, I couldn't even sleep. Like I could pass out sitting right here, but not really sleep.
Yeah.
And
Eyes closed, but
there was not
nothing's.
any amount of food that was going to help me. And I was like, okay, this is just part of the process. Like, and people are like, no, no, you have to tell your coach. You need to like really think about this. No, 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 no. I'm gonna suck it up because my ego was such that don't show weakness, right? You want to impress your coach. I pushed through for the wrong reasons, but I think that's the closest to burnout I ever had.
Mhm.
This past year, though, was more of a mental burnout because of opinions rather than physical. So I actually gave myself the third degree saying, you're not working nearly as hard as near death experiences as before. So what are you complaining about? You're just letting other people in your ear, which is mentally draining you and it's affecting your physical. So it just goes to show stress, whether it's physical or mental, is all going to go to the same bucket if you don't manage it.
Hmm.
But I do think
Absolutely.
that there are people listening that can resonate with both sides of the coin. They'll probably say, I get it. Like you can be physically fine, but mentally you're so burnt out that you physically feel terrible. And when I say physically fine, I mean like you're not running marathons or doing like 9 days a week of CrossFit or something like that, where you're really taxing your body. But then you can have those years where you're taxing your body so much, but mentally you pull through because of whatever circumstances that you tell yourself in your head that you don't need rest or you just have one more week or whatever it is. And that's how we got through the sports seasons, right?
Hmm.
So
Exactly.
I've felt both, I think, burnout wise.
Nice. All right. I want to circle back to the female athlete being poked and prodded. Are you lesbian? Are you wanting to be a man? Are you transgender? Are you are you a man? So when those moments come up for you from a mindset perspective, what's a piece of advice you would give someone who's experiencing exactly that?
So for the person who's accused, like the way I
Hmm.
was,
Yes.
considering the source, when it happened on Instagram, you can't see the person, you can't touch them, you don't know who it is, you can't converse with them face to face. That was hard for me because I'm like, That's mean. Like, who would do that? You're a keyboard warrior, you're a piece of crap. Like, and you have no context. So the easiest thing to do as far as advice, as hard as it is, because I'm a fighter and I always want to be right and I always want to fight people for justice. The easiest thing to do and the most mentally sane thing is block, delete. I love you myself. You don't even have to respond. And I would get into pissing matches with people. I'm like, you can't do that. Block, delete. Block, delete, ignore. Go to the mirror and tell yourself how much you love yourself. When
Nice.
it's in person, the way I experienced with the podcast guy, I had already been through the trial by fire with the online people that I'm like, okay, well, you are now finally in front of somebody. You can't hit them. You can't like just
You
block the
can. There's
still in front of
consequences.
you. I'm like, what do you do? And so my response was to laugh it off and say, are you serious? Like, and then I questioned it because I think I had started to turn the corner in the emotional intelligence realm to be like, okay, find out why. And then I started to get defensive and I was like, you seriously not going to believe me? Like, I'm answering your question that I don't have to answer because it's personal. I'm telling you transparently that I'm a biological woman. I'm offering to pull down my pants to call your bluff. Obviously, you didn't expect
Don't
that
do
one
that.
because the guy was like, yeah, no, go away. I'm telling you, if you don't trust my words, I'm sorry, I'm leaving. Which is what he wanted anyway. So the best thing to do would probably be to mature one and excuse yourself from the situation when it happens in person, or find a way to laugh it off, but debrief after because it is going to sting.
Yes.
But only
That's
certain people can help you debrief because certain friends will just be like, "Oh, well, F them, forget about it." It's not so easy. Because this is what I'll say to anyone who is struggling with this. I heard it so many times. I started to think I was wrong and the masses were right. And so I started to question myself. And when you start to question yourself, you question what you're doing, which bodybuilding made me as tenacious as I was. And then I stopped doing that because of fear of judgment. And I went backwards. And then I really didn't like who I became because I was no longer tenacious, fit. I just the best advice I think is to just recognize that people are hurt. People are sad. People are judgmental. People want what you have, even if they're going to front like they don't. And the
Hmm.
best opportunity in those moments is to just walk away and do the inner work to say, I love what I do. This is why it makes me whole. And this is why it doesn't matter what they say. But if you had asked me this question a year ago, I would have told you to just sock them in the face because I hadn't
Yep.
grown yet. I was still hurt.
That's when we met.
No, no, it was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? It
Was
was
it?
like
Okay. So
21. Oh my gosh.
2021. Yeah. It's been a
Yeah.
couple of years. Yeah. To watch your evolution through this has been beautiful. So thank you. And thank you for sharing. Christina, where can people connect with you? Where can they learn more about what you do in the world to help others? How do you serve people?
Sure. My Instagram at Christina Specos is probably my baby right now. So hopefully it doesn't ever explode because there's a lot of time and money that's gone into content. But there you can find a lot of like my viewpoints on fitness, how I serve people, some client testimonials and transformations. But I think you could really connect with the type of message that I have. That's pretty much no BS. If you want to change yourself physically or mentally, there's a process that's all linked together. So you'll find a lot about that there. I did start a podcast called Spec Talk. I have it on my YouTube page. And that's that's the era when it sparked the first round of questions, like who are you?
Hmm.
That era of content in the end of 2022. So going to be continuing that. So there's an Instagram page for it that's not well developed, but you can go straight to YouTube. And if you just email me directly because you have some sort of question, it's Christina at ChristinaSpecos.com.
Yay. Aw. Christina, thank you so much for sharing in this unbelievably vulnerable conversation. And of course, potentially triggering for those who are listening. But hopefully they made it to this point and they got to hear everything that you shared. So thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm glad you see it as vulnerable because now I look at it as my duty to share
Mm.
the experience. It's not scary to share it because I've tried to own the pain and realize like this is not only me going through it. And when I see other people's Instagrams with the same content, I know, or comments on their content, I know that I'm not the only one. But in the large part of the world, people don't know that this bias exists. So I kind of feel like it's just a part of me to share, and it wasn't scary. So thank you for the platform to get it out.
I'm happy it wasn't scary.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map the path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.